8 Palestine Action supporters who are currently on remand have been on hunger strike now for weeks, protesting about being held in custody whilst they're awaiting trial.
Our friends are starving to death in UK prisons!
Have sandwich then.
So, yeah, I mean, my friends are starving to death in UK prisons, and then he tells them to have an effing sandwich then, which, to be fair, is actually quite good advice if you're starving to death and food is available. But crowds have been gathering outside the prison and also, as well, on Oxford Street. Yes, look, they're obviously basically trying to essentially become martyrs for Palestine and for their particular group as well. The government says that prison procedures are being followed, whilst families and even MPs are now urging for there to be an intervention. In fact, one well-known MP, Zara Sultana, she turned up at the prison. And look, my concern is this, that if they are inside on hunger strike, which they are, and then they can hear that there's people outside with drums and kafirs saying things like, don't give up, yay, like, are they not likely to just starve themselves to death in a way that they might, like, at what point are they being encouraged, you know? Like, I think there's that, isn't it? But it's a good job that we've got a panel and an audience to talk to this about. Jen, I'll start with you. Do you have any sympathy for these hunger strikers who are now saying they need urgent hospital attention?
None whatsoever. When Zara Sultana of the Fruit and Nut Party, or whatever it's called today, did her first intervention on this, she said, oh, I've spoken to the people in the hospital who said that they're fine, but I still think they need to have an ambulance. And the point is supposed to be, if you are willing to die for your beliefs on these things, then that's what would happen as an inevitable consequence of it. One of these people has decided to go on hunger strike every other day, which is what I managed to do when I'm being particularly disciplined in my dry January. Intermittent fasting, right? Or the 5-2 diet, right? I'll only eat eggs every Monday and all this sort of stuff, right? I mean, it's just completely farcical. Yeah, completely farcical about this stuff, let alone the fact that what they're doing is trying to back a terrorist organisation who have done all sorts of horrendous things, breaking into RAF sites and all the rest of it, and allegedly attacking a police officer and breaking her spine with a sledgehammer. You can see the footage around it. It's absolutely horrendous.
Well, yes,
but even if
at
these...
this point, just going to say that, obviously, these are alleged offences.
Allegedly.
Everyone is innocent until proven guilty.
Allegedly.
And they are yet to have their day in court. But carry on.
Exactly right. But as you say, there is also the risk of a kind of contagion, a social contagion. So we see this happening. More people that decide to do this, they might decide to keep gluing their hands again to streets or onto artwork and things like that. Yeah. And this is happening at a time when we've got strikes going on inside the NHS. So for everybody here who might be waiting for an operation that's been pushed back or have got friends or family who are poorly or the rest of it, their healthcare will be a lot worse as a result of these selfish people taking away resources when they don't need to do it because they could just go and have a sandwich.
We're going to go to Benjamin, and I believe someone else got a question on this. I'm trying to figure out who it is. Is it? Yes, hello. OK, right, get ready. Benjamin, your views first on this.
Well, I mean, I've spent a great deal of time in Israel, and I remember in June I met a woman who was a victim of the Nova Festival massacre on the 7th of October, and she had to be on so many anti-anxiety drugs to tell the story of that atrocity. Now, that is somebody whose life has been turned upside down by terrorism and who knows what it is like to be persecuted for who they are. It is no coincidence that the tactics of these people, like Greta Thunberg, who pretended to have been kidnapped by Israel when she took her flotilla into their waters. They are doing this to gaslight Jews and to gaslight Israelis. And they should be treated with respect. They should have access to hospital treatment because we are more dignified than the way people in Hamas and their supporters would behave. So we shouldn't disrespect these people. That doesn't make us better. But the fact is that refusing your cornflakes for a month does not give you the moral superiority over 65 million other people. They should go ahead and get a fair trial, and that is that, exactly as anybody else would who was accused of a crime.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
All right, so again, just a polite reminder, I'm sure that you weren't going to stray into any dodgy legal territory, but they have, of course, not yet been found guilty of anything. They are always here. This is more about the hunger strike. They've put themselves in a situation where they need medical care, I suppose. What would you like to say about it?
Just a very simple question on it, which is, I didn't hear any people that are on hunger strike last year in 2024 talking about those political prisoners that were locked up through fast-tracked court cases. So, in my genuine opinion, it's a clear hypocrisy from the left wing, as usual, because they talk about one thing if it fits their agenda, but not the other. So, with all due respect, you can eat a sandwich. That's pretty simple if you're on hunger strike. But the real question is, why did the left and those like Benjamin not talk about this last year when there was hunger strike, when there was political prisoners?
I see.
If they're calling them political prisoners, why did they not do that this time last year?
Your point really is that you think that there were a fair few people who've been locked up basically for tweets or Facebook posts who were, in your view, political prisoners, and we didn't see people from the left, banging drums outside prison for them and all of that.
Exactly.
Stuff, basically, yeah. Well, OK, so it's an interesting point.
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. Thank you for exposing Benjamin's hypocrisy and the hypocrisy of the left once again. So they're only eating every other day. It's like,
one of them is
like a Michael Molesey fast, basically.
Right.
That's what they're doing. I mean, you're quite right in as much as the people outside. I mean, if you've seen the state of some of the people outside of that prison banging the drum, it's going to encourage them, not because they're going to feel like, they're getting good encouragement. It's going to encourage them to think, well, maybe the end will come sooner. I'll refuse food for another day. I have to listen to that.
Something you've not done in a while.
Thank you very much.
I wondered how catty it was going to get tonight.
Margaret Thatcher always said, when they get personal, you know that they've lost the argument.
There is a risk, though, here.
Yes.
There is a risk here. Seriously, for all of the kind of, well, let's be honest about the joking that we've had and everything, I do genuinely, I hope nobody actually dies, but they might. Right? And then they become martyrs, don't they?
That's the point.
That's the
and
thing.
I think you raised this. You create the environment for aggression, and then it grows eventually into possible terrorist activities. That was the point when we saw the Bondi Beach shootings last week. We knew that previously there had been 300,000 people marching across the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Now, no one is suggesting that all 300,000, of those people were radicalised, but it created an environment where terrorism could exist. And I think, I'm not talking about these specific crimes, but every time you build up the fury and the anger over things like this, you're just risking more instability in society. And to be quite honest, I think eating every other day is ridiculous. I think this is to my mind, a little bit half-hearted. You want to understand what hunger strike is. You want to see what women went through when they went on a hunger strike in Wormwood Scrubs to get the vote. They died.
Is it genuinely our opinion across the panel that they're not doing it properly enough?
No. They are doing it more than enough, and they need to eat something and look after their health, because some of them will have families, no doubt, as well, and maybe even kids. I don't know. And you should just
have some willpower to.
But what happens exactly when more people who watch some of this stuff and go, OK, well, I don't like this issue, I don't like that issue, and suddenly you start seeing this happening. And again, in a bigger version of this, for every Saturday you have these huge protests, screaming screaming bloody murder, all these sorts of awful things. And to use the example from Sydney specifically, people the day after it happened started screaming, "Gas the Jews," and then we wonder why a load of Jews go and get murdered not long afterwards. That could happen if these things escalate.
I will say is that I have very little sympathy for people who deliberately put themselves in catastrophic situations, like you've glued your hand to a road, or you're halfway up a suspension bridge, or, you know, in this case, you're very, very hungry. And then you say, well, I've now got health complications as a result of that, like I've ripped the skin off my hand when you got me off the road, or I'm starving to death. And I'm a bit like, well, now you want us to sort your mess out, don't you?
But just on a quick, serious note, remember Bobby Sands, of course. You know, that is, you know, the martyrdom that happened as a result of that, in Thatcher sort of standing firm on that. You know, that is serious.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the government handles it.